Welcome back. All right, this is part 2 of HTML, and as you can see, I have brackets and PowerPoint up here, and I'm going to flip back and forth between them a little bit. But as you can see, I have fleshed out my web page quite a bit, and we just are using those basic tags that we worked with last time. So we have, just to review, we have our opening and our closing tags. What you open, you must close. Doctype HTML, which tells us we're creating an HTML5 document. HTML, we're opening the page. Closing, we're closing the page. Actually, I have an error there. I'm not sure why. Our head tag and our closing head tag, our title, which I'm calling very creatively, Lisa Sharp one-page website. And I actually chose as my subject, I chose typography. So as you can see, I have a heading, heading 1, heading 3, and then I have paragraphs of type that are separated by headings. Okay, so let's see how that looks. All right, so here's my H1 heading, my H3 heading, paragraphs in between, and as you can see, I've also added an image and I've added a link. So we're going to add a few more things. First, let's take a quick look at some of the things that we talked about last time, which is, okay, number 1, what you open, you must close, right? All tags get a closing tag except the ones that don't. Okay, so for example, we went through last time and we added a link, which actually does have a closing tag. And this link is not working. I'm going to delete it. And then we have, and you can also style those links. Okay, now there are actually tags that don't have a closing tag, like this one, break, BR, break. That is a line break. It basically forces a line break anywhere. And another one is our image tag. So we have the image, IMG. SRC is an attribute. It stands for source. Remember, HTML tags can have attributes that modify them. So let's break that down a bit. So I have an image. It is in my images folder. Look, brackets will preview it for you. Nice. It's in my images folder. And notice I have it enclosed in quotes. And then I have another attribute, the alt attribute. The alt attribute is designed for, well, it was originally designed for people who were using a screen reader to read web pages because they had impaired vision. And it's still used for that purpose, but now it has become much more important in terms of your search engine optimization because the search engines use it. So we want a descriptive piece of information in there so that the search engines can decipher your image. And so I have image, that's the tag, source, that's the attribute. Then I have where to find the source in my images folder, what the source is called, all that is enclosed in quotation marks. Then I have my alt attribute, quotes, and then I have this break tag. So these are sometimes known as singleton tags, and I have a list of them actually that I'm going to bring up here. It's on the PowerPoint. And then I'm closing out my body and I'm closing out my HTML page. Okay, what you open you must close. HTML tags can have attributes. Sometimes you don't need a closing tag. And I have a reference for you which I will go to later, but here's what we have so far. All right, so let's quickly go to the PowerPoint here. This is very important to understand. Right now, all the web pages we make will be ugly. All right, so that's just a fact of life for where we are now. In a very short amount of time, you're going to be learning CSS, or cascading style sheets, which is how we make beautiful typography, lots of color, and all kinds of other interesting things like grids, image galleries, you name it. But for now, I just want you to be patient and realize that we are learning HTML from the ground up, and it is better to learn it that way than to overcomplicate things. Okay, so we're going to add something to this web page. We're going to add a list. So there are two types of list, ordered and unordered. Ordered is numbered and unordered is a button. So let's add a list to my web page over here. All right, so I have Introduction to Typography, the importance of typography. All right, I'm going to replace this paragraph of type with a list. So it's going to be an ordered list. And look, it gave me the closing tag. Okay, so OL ordered list. And then in between that, I'm going to have list item. And I'm going to just copy and paste that so I have several items in my list. So these list items are going to be numbered 1 through 4. So the importance of typography, it subtly influences consumer behavior. It has historical value. It is the designer's palette and paintbrush. And all designers are totally geeky about typography, which is true, by the way. But we ought to spell it right. Okay, so ordered list, the importance of typography. List item number 1, subtly influences consumer behavior, closing tag. Opening tag, historical value, closing tag. List item, designer's palette and paintbrush, closing tag. Last item on the list, opening tag, closing tag, and then we close out the list. There's our list. All right, let's save that thing and preview it. There we go. We have our ordered list. Now let's quickly change that to an unordered list. So all we have to do is change this to UL and everything changes, everything else will stay the same. So unordered list will be a button list. Save. Let's refresh it. Now we have a button list. Okay, so that's easy. And as I mentioned before, there are tags without closing tags. And one of them we already used, the break tag. The image tag we've already used. And the HR tag is kind of nice. It defines a horizontal rule. And technically, you're supposed to use it for a thematic break. In other words, a break in thought. So let's go ahead. We've already added an image tag. We've already added a break tag. And by the way, here's that list, this list of singleton HTML tags right here. There's a lot of them. Tons and tons. A lot of them you will never use. Some you will use all the time. But that's the complete list of HTML singleton elements, elements without a closing tag. All right, so let's put in a horizontal rule just for fun. All righty, so back to brackets. And right now, let's do Introduction to Typography, and then we're just going to put a horizontal rule in there, so HR. All right, save it, preview it. Preview it, there we go, wait for it. There it is, Introduction to Typography, so that kind of gives us a little bit of definition there in our type. All right, back to the PowerPoint here. All right, guys, right now we are creating responsive web pages. The problem is they're all ugly. You cannot control everything about your page yet because we have not started learning CSS yet. Do not despair. There's a couple things to remember about HTML. So right now, like I said, this is responsive. It's responsive design. And that's great. I'm going to go back and preview it again. What do I mean by responsive design? I mean that all of the content will resize depending on the size of the browser. Okay, well that's great. That's great. Except, Lisa, it's not very attractive. Well, just be patient. One thing to understand about HTML is when you add extra spaces or extra lines, HTML just ignores that stuff. So if I want a space between my unordered list and H3, the trained eye, let's save it, preview it again, you're going to see HTML completely ignores that. Absolutely, positively ignores that, and we get the exact same result. Ta-da! So it ignores extra spaces, it ignores extra code lines, all of that. Okay, when we get to CSS, you get a lot more control, so just be patient. All right, so now let's add some basic text formatting. Okay, B for bold, strong for important. These are visually the same, but in terms of a search engine, they're different. So strong tells Google or the other search engines, hey, 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 this is important stuff. Whereas bold just says, hey, this is bold. I is for italic, M is for emphasized. Mark is highlighted. Small is small text if you really want that. Deleted is strike through. Insert, underline, subscript, and superscript do exactly what they say. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a different version of the same web page in brackets, since I've created several versions of it. And let's get rid of these extra spaces, because actually, if it's going to be clean code, we don't want any extra spaces in there that we don't intend to have. All right, so let's go ahead and open. And let's take a look at what I have, week, day 2. Okay, I've got a list in there. All right, so here we have, let's add the strong tag. To the untrained eye, all type looks about the same. Let's mark that strong. Now, we have to put that closing tag after what we want to mark as strong. So I'm going to mark to the untrained eye, all type looks about the same. So that's going to be strong. In fact, the average person cannot tell the difference between two typefaces. And I'm going to use M for that to emphasize it. Move that closing tag over. The untrained individual may be able to make a distinction between a sans serif typeface like Arial and a serif typeface like Times, but it is rare to find a non-designer who actively studies type. Why then is typography so vital a part of the designer's vocabulary? We're going to make that italic. We're not emphasizing it, we're just italicizing it. Okay, all right, so let's save it, let's preview it. Okay, that looks pretty good. So maybe I'm going to add a break tag here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move this down just so I know. So I'll add a break tag. All right, now let's highlight something. Okay, so let's flipping back to, so here's my live preview. To the untrained eye, all type looks about the same, and then we have our emphasized text here, and we have our italicized text here. So remember that the search engines, even though the visual is the same, to a search engine, these tags are different. Strong says, hey, hey, this is important stuff. Whereas the bold tag says nothing to the search engine. M, emphasized text, again, hey, this is important stuff. Whereas the italic is just a visual italic. All right, so quickly let's look at what else we have. Emphasized text, we use bold, strong, italic, and M. Highlighted text, what should we highlight? Let's take a look. Let's mark the importance of typography. Okay, and you're going to see it gives it a highlight color, which is going to be kind of ugly, but that's all right. And there it is. It's marked. It's highlighted. Okay, so can you control this with CSS? Yes, it doesn't always have to be yellow. We're going to get to that later. So you can use the rest of these at your leisure, strike through, underline, etc., etc. As a matter of fact, insert, I'm going to use that. Okay, this is ugly, but I'm going to use it on my H1 heading. Nice code hints there. All right, so now that's underlined. All right, so those are some basic formatting options that you can use. I actually don't think that they made my page any more attractive. As a matter of fact, I think they made the page less attractive. But when you get to CSS, which will be very soon, trust me, you will be able to control how all of these things look. So you won't have to have ugly yellow highlighting, for example. You can control what color it is. And you can control what typefaces the reader sees, etc., etc. And as you can see, let's take a look at some stuff that I've already plugged in. I plugged in a horizontal rule, and I plugged in a comment. So let's flip back so I'm moving through the PowerPoint here. Okay, a quote. Q gives you quotation marks. A block quote is indented. Okay, so Q just gives you quotation marks. So let's do that. And then we'll also use a block quote. All right, so I'm going to start the block quote right here. The Essentials of Typography, Serif and Sans Serif. That's going to be a block quote. Okay, so we're going to notice when we preview that, or when we go ahead and update that. Oops, did I? Save that. Okay, so let's look at there it is, a block quote. Okay, and I'm going to use a quotation mark. Designers get paid to manipulate minds with type. So we're going to put Q in there. Excuse my phone ringing. I don't know who that is, but they can wait. All right, save it, preview it. Okay, and that did not work. I'm not sure why. All right, I'm not going to stress over it because normally we would use block quote anyway. All right, so let's look at cite. That's already in here. So for citing your sources, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cite. And I'm going to put contents derived from thinkingwithtype.com. Okay, so there's my citation. A couple other things in here. I have a comment. I'm having issues with a link. So here's my comment. I use the left angle bracket, an exclamation point, and 2 dashes, and then I use, this is my closing tag, for example, so I couldn't get thinking with type to display. So this is my closing tag for a comment, 2 dashes, and the right angle bracket. So this is used to comment out code and also give information for other web designers who might work on your page. Okay, I have a few other funky things in here. I have the address tag, and I have title, so abbreviation title doctor. So that's just another little piece of fun stuff for you. Address just italicizes your type. Notice I have break tags in there so that I can get line breaks, and here's how that looks. Professor Dr. Lisa Sharp, and I have my address, and I have a link down here to explore typography. All right, so we have a quote, we have citations, we added contact information, and we added a comment. So let's look at comments a little bit more deeply. So again, here's our opening tag for a comment, has the exclamation point. Closing tag for a comment does not have the exclamation point rather. And so all of that, if you take a look at some more complex websites, for example, if you look at the code for any complex website and inspect it using Chrome, you can look at the designer's comments on the code. So that's kind of a fun thing to do and helps you understand how the other designer thinks. And it's also important for you as a designer because someday you may have to hand off that website to another designer, and it would be very helpful for them if they could understand your code. Okay, so we're going to add those preceding web page elements in context. Well, we already did that. So we're going to close for now, and that's our HTML part 2. Have fun!